And just to be clear, this is not for folks that are raising venture capital. This is how do you build a humbly successful business. If you want to raise venture capital, you have to be a lot faster than that. But that also means you're just borrowing from the future by diluting the company. Hello, welcome back to this channel. Today, I want to talk about the wealth ladder applied to software as a service companies. So one of my favorite books this month is The Wealth Ladder by Nick Maggiulli. It divides people into 6 different levels based on their net worth. So the first level is anyone whose net worth is less than $10,000. Second level, between $10,000 and $100,000. Level 3 is $100 to $1 million. Level 4, that's where the $1 million starts, $1 to $10 million of net worth. Level 5 is $10 to $100 million in net worth. And level 6 is more than $100 million in net worth. It is one of my favorite finance books of all time. And it talks about the different strategies on how do you go from level 1 to level 2, from level 2 to level 3, and so on. So for example, if you're below in level 1, which is less than $10,000 of net worth, the strategy is to survive any catastrophic health issues because people unfortunately are trapped in level 1 if they are there. Level 2 is the way to get out of level 2 is to acquire new skill sets and education and knowledge so that you can be really good at your job. That's actually the path that I took. I got really good at engineering and software. And so that's a testament to all kind of the fresh grads to don't focus too much on anything else. Just focus on acquiring the skill sets, either outside of work or during work, or do whatever you can. So in the early days when I first graduated, I literally walked to the University of Washington evening classes to take these master's degree classes, and then I enrolled in the master's program. Level 3, the way to get out of level 3 is to invest into stocks, real estate, buy your primary residence, and buy mutual funds. Be knowledgeable about investing so that your money can work for you. The way to get out of level 4, which is $1 to $10 million, which is the level that most people get stuck on when they get there, it's really hard to get out of level 4. The way to get out of it is to become an entrepreneur. So in order to get from level 4 to level 5, absent of the fact that you could be a celebrity, an actress, actor, or athlete, or the influencer, the most probable way is through entrepreneurship. And that is what I kind of end up taking. Level 3, I bought real estate. Level 4, I end up starting a company. Level 5 is the $10 to $100 million. To get out of level 5, you basically need to scale your business. That's not as relevant, I guess, to us in this stage. So it talks about the wealth ladders for individuals. That's the summary. And there are lots of golden nuggets in that book. So please go buy that from Amazon. I have no affiliates with that book. I just really like the book. I want to talk about how it applies to SaaS companies, which is a framework that I came up with after reading the book. So I also want to divide all the software as a service tech startups into 6 different categories. And level 1 are the startups that make less than $10,000 of ARR. This is annual recurring revenue. Level 2 is between $10,000 and $100,000 of ARR. Level 3 is $100,000 to $1 million of ARR. Level 4 is 1 to 10 in annual recurring revenue. Level 5 is 10 to 100 million. And level 6 finally is 100 million to say $1 billion in annual revenue. So that's the 6 levels. And it is so resonating, that framework. Just to be clear, I want to talk about how long does it take to get from one level to the other. This is the framework I came up with, which is it will take approximately 1 year that you stay in level 1 from the moment you start a company. Well, that's true because less than 10,000. So what that means is a year later, you're probably still less than $10,000 in annual recurring revenue. 2 years to get to level 2. So in 2 years, you are somewhere between $10,000 and $100,000 in revenue. And 4 years is level 3. And so 4 years, you are between $100,000 and $1 million in revenue. 8 years is level 4. And so this is cumulative. That means once you hit $1 million, it takes about 4 more years to kind of break through the $10 million barrier. But if you still stay in level 4 after 8 years, it's not the end of the world. Level 6 is 16 years, and that is $10 to $100 million in revenue. So basically, it takes about 16 years to hit closer to $100 million in revenue, because level 5 is the $10 to $100 million in revenue, and that is 8 more years for a cumulative of 16 years. And it's about 32 years between $100 million to $1 billion in revenue. This is very useful because let's apply some companies to this framework. So you might say, hey, this is absolutely not true. Some of the best companies like Lovable, Replit, these AI vibe coding softwares get to like $200 million in revenue in like 2 years. Like, what the hell does it take 30 years? That's absolutely not true. I think just like people, you can extraordinarily exceed those expectations, but it's really important to ground yourself in how long it's supposed to take, so that if you measure yourself against Lovable, nobody's succeeding in that case. Similarly, just take the wealth ladder for the people as well. Guess what's the median age of a millionaire? People in level 4. The median age in level 4 is 62 years old. You are probably listening to this because in your 20, 30, or 40s, and you probably live in one of the coastal cities, and you're like, yo, like I'm 35 and I'm definitely in level 4, and like this is not true. You just happen to be lucky to be working in tech or have a high paying job, and that's probably why you're watching this video. The same story applies to me, but you're not average. You're actually extraordinarily above, like multiple standard deviations above the average. And similarly, you might also, the same mindset of like, I'm not doing that well, even though I'm a millionaire, quote unquote, because I compare myself to all these other folks that are way higher than me. So the framework is to ground ourselves that, hey, don't compare yourself to Lovable. This is a traditional way of growing your net worth, and similarly for the company. So it's a message to myself where it will take me 16 years to break through the $100 million ARR barrier. It will take 8 years from the moment I start a company to break through the $10 million in revenue. To give an example, let's take some of the most successful companies. DocuSign actually take a little bit more than 10 years to get to $100 million in revenue. And 100 million, 10 years, that's between 8 and 16. That's exactly right. They are in the better end of that 16, you see? But like DocuSign is one of the most successful companies of all time. Well, probably not on the news, but like for all the SaaS companies, that's very, very successful. Also keep in mind, if you are doing, let's say, $100 million in revenue, which is 16 years later, you are at least $1 billion company. And so if you're one of the entrepreneurs, that's a few $100 million of generational wealth. So this is the video for the kind of the humbly successful startups. The startups, they are not in the multiple standard deviations above the norm. And one of the messages is don't compare yourself to the fastest growing companies in the news. The other example I want to use is HubSpot. HubSpot does also take about 10 years to get to the hundreds of million dollars in revenue. And so they're growing just steadily. And now it's a $35 billion company, somewhere along those lines, and they're generating billions of revenue. So it's really important to know. Also in the book, you actually talk about some of the most successful entrepreneurs are not people in their 20s. They're the median successful entrepreneur for unicorns actually are 45 years old. Started a company when they're 45. They just have more experience. We are drawn romantically to the folks that are younger, that create an amazing company when they're young, but those are the outliers. It's really important for me to remember that if you are within those boundaries, you're not doing bad, you're just steadily improving, and that's good enough. And try to have such unrealistic expectations that you are not that, or you are not lovable, or you're not Replit, or you're not, Cursor, is not going to help you succeed. Similarly, for the companies that are wildly successful in 2 or 3 years, there are actually 2 paths for them. One is they become wildly successful many, many years later, such as Stripe. And so that's good news, good for them. And there's a place for that. Amazon, Microsoft, Stripe of the world. But then there's also this thing, if anything that comes easy, they can lose it very easy as well. So it's never clear if this is a fad or this is a lasting. And I will say the judgment stake is if you exceeded, say, $100 million in 5 years, okay? Congratulations. The question then is 16 years later, are you still that revenue? 16 years later, that's where we measure you, because every exponentially higher number of years, the rule is measuring you. Have you hit it? Yes, you were very smart when you were younger as a company, but 16 years later, are you still $100 million revenue? Clubhouse, for example, was wildly successful in the early days, but like 16 years later, it doesn't really exist anymore. So that is important because, people say, oh, you should grow faster. But my goal is, how can I still be around 16 or 32 years from now? Like, my goal is one day I do want to build a $100 million revenue company. So how can I make sure that we do things, even if we're not growing that fast? That's the goal we want to get to. By the time I'm 60 something, I want to have a $100 million ARR company. It doesn't exactly mean that I'm going to grow as fast as I can. It means building the foundation, because I'm chasing the goal in 32 years, that milestone. And I'm not so much chasing, can I grow just a little bit faster this week or this month or this year? And it's helpful for me to not get discouraged that way. To summarize, I map the wealth ladder, a book I highly recommend, the levels onto the startups themselves. And the message is, don't get trapped by comparison. It's a really nice framework, just in general and based on my own data. That's the speed in which you grow. Don't really listen to the triple, double. And in fact, nowadays, the world has accelerated in terms of revenue growing. And just to be clear, this is not for folks that are raising venture capital. This is how do you build a humbly successful business. If you want to raise venture capital, you have to be a lot faster than that. But that also means you're just borrowing from the future by diluting the company. So if you want to build a humbly successful business, an enduring business, if you fall under these categories with these time spans, you're doing just fine. That's my opinion. I don't know what you think. I think that's a great framework. I have mapped some of the most successful companies I respect in different small niches outside of Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta and all that, who make generational wealth for themselves and their employees, have followed this trend line. So that's my framework, which is looking at reality without the tainted glasses. Specifically, one of the most stunning statistics is the median age for a millionaire is 62 years old. And you might be kicking yourself. I'm 35, I'm still not a millionaire. No, it's going to take some time. I think that's going to be useful. At least I think it's useful for me. So let me know what you think. And thanks for listening. Have a nice day.